The movie starts with Sean riding his motorcycle in the woods off Hawaii. Sean arrives to a place to find his father injured and hanging from his leg. The father tells Sean to run away quickly, so he hides among the trees and sees a man named Eddie, wearing a white suit and hitting Sean's father, who is a judge, with a baseball bat. The father dies, and Sean gets terrified, so he rides his motorcycle and drives off. He arrives home terrified of what he saw, and then he sees the news of his father's death on the news. Sean hears the sound of someone trying to break down the door, so he looks through the peephole to see Eddie's men coming to kill him. He tries to escape from the balcony, but an officer named Flynn catches him and makes him stop and takes out his pistol and kills the gang. Then he and Sean get into the car and go. When they arrive at the police station, Flynn asked him why he didn't tell the police when he saw Eddie killing his father, and Sean tells him that he was afraid that the gang was working with the police. The officer convinces Sean to testify against Eddie in court. We move to Honolulu International Airport to see two flight attendants getting ready for the flight, and 3 rappers signing for fans and boarding the plane. The 2 flight attendants arrive on the plane to meet their colleague Claire, who learns from the captain that there is a policeman on the plane to protect someone to testify in court, and for this reason the police have reserved all the first-class seats on the plane. The captain assigns Claire to speak and explain to the first-class passengers. We see 2 people working at the airport behaving suspiciously and talking on the phone, and one of them is spraying something on the flowers on the plane. When Sean takes his seat, Flynn calls Harris to talk about Eddie, and Harris says that Eddie will not be able to escape from Hawaii. In the economy class, there is a businessman who is annoyed by the presence of a woman with her dog next to him, and on the other side is a woman with a child, so he changes his seat. The rap group also comes to the economy class. There are also 2 children alone as their mother is waiting for them at Los Angeles airport. The plane takes off, and a flight attendant goes to Sean to introduce herself to him, and tells him that her name is Tiffany. Sean tells her the reason for his travel to Los Angeles, and she admires him because she loves crime stories. The passengers of the plane do not know that there are hundreds of snakes in a large box in the cargo hold, and there is a timer on the box to open after 2 hours. The rapper calls the girl with the dog to sit next to him, so she comes and puts the dog on him, and he gets upset about that. After 2 hours, the box opens and a lot of poisonous snakes come out of it. A couple goes to the bathroom to smoke weed. They turn off the fire alarm, when suddenly a snake appears and attacks them, so they scream. Snakes cut power lines and pilots lose control of the plane. The snakes arrive in the economy class in the plane, and spread all over the place. The passengers are not aware of the danger they are in, so one of them goes to the bathroom, and a snake comes out of the toilet seat and attacks him, so he screams in pain and hits his head on the mirror and gets severely injured. The situation gets much worse when the plane gets into a storm and the passengers panic. One of the pilots goes down to the control room to fix the fault with the wires, and the snakes attack him to die from the poison. The pilot Rick and the flight attendant Claire see him, and go to tell Officer Flynn and his colleague Sanders, so they go to the control room to see what happened. The pilot, Rick, goes to fly the plane alone without his assistant, and Claire goes to the passengers to calm them down, and the bags fall from the shaking of the plane. Rick sees snakes on the steering gear, and hits them with a book to accidentally open the passengers' respirators, so the snakes fall on the passengers, causing a catastrophic situation on the plane. Passengers scream, a snake bites a woman in the eye, and another snake bites Officer Sanders, so he starts to ache, so Flynn uses the electric shocker to keep the snakes away from his friend. A large cobra appears and begins to approach the 2 children to bite one of them, who is called Tommy. The passengers run over a person while escaping from the snakes, and one of them tries to hide in the bathroom, only to be surprised by the corpses there. Flynn makes the passengers build a wall using their bags to prevent the snakes from reaching them. Mercedes is alone in the economy class among the corpses and snakes. Fortunately for her, an Asian passenger who is a boxing player sees her and rescues her by carrying her on his back and running. Flynn and Claire see the 2 children and notice that Tommy's arm is swollen from the cobra bite. A flight attendant named Grace hears the sound of a child crying in economy class, so she passes through the baggage wall to find him sitting crying, and the snakes approaching him, so she carries him to save him, but a snake bites her from behind. Grace gives the child to his mother, and goes back to the bags. Officer Sanders' condition becomes worse because of the poison, and Flynn calls his colleague Harris to tell him what happened, so they conclude that Eddie is the one who planned all this to kill the passengers, including Sean, who will testify against him in court. Harris asks his colleagues to find someone who's experienced with snakes. Sean offers to help, but Flynn orders him to stay put in first class, away from the snakes, so he can be safe and testify in court. Tommy's arm swells badly, so the baby's mother sucks the poison from his arm. Harris meets a snake expert named Dr. Price, and they move together in the car and call Flynn, and tell him that there must be something on the plane that makes snakes behave aggressively, and the reason may be pheromone gas. The doctor's suggestion is correct because the airport worker at the beginning of the movie turns out that he was spraying pheromone on roses. Flynn asks everyone to collect the bodies of dead snakes to identify their types, and tell the doctor to make an anti-venom serum for each type of them. In the cockpit, Rick is bitten by a snake and falls to the ground. Mercedes suggests that she take pictures of the snakes and send them to the doctor. After that, the plane's balance is disturbed due to the lack of a pilot, and Flynn orders everyone to fasten seat belts. Then, he goes to the cockpit to find Claire facing a snake, but she finally manages to kill it. Flynn and Claire sit in the seats of the pilot and his co-pilot to restore the balance of the plane, but they don't succeed in doing so, and the snakes reach the travelers behind the baggage wall and attack them. Sean offers the passengers to move to the first class, and the passengers rush to climb the stairs in a state of panic, and a large anaconda falls from the ceiling and heads for the passengers. Because of the stampede of passengers, the stairs don't stand up and break, so the passengers fall, including the businessman, so the anaconda turns towards him and swallows him whole while he's alive. The rest of the passengers go up to the first class and try to stop the snakes from going up. Flynn calls airport control, who tell him he has to get the plane up quickly before it crashes into the ocean. At the last moment, Flynn and Claire are able to lift the plane and save the passengers' lives. Rick emerges from the cockpit, only to discover that the air conditioning has failed, and the passengers won't be able to breathe. Dr. Price sees the pictures and says that these snakes are not authorized to exist in America and are very rare, so he won't be able to make an anti-venom serum. Grace dies due to a snakebite, and Claire cries, so Flynn calms her down and tells her that he will fix the air conditioning from the cargo hold. Claire makes a flamethrower for him using a small gas cylinder, so Flynn gets down and burns the snakes on his way, and finally he's able to fix the air conditioning through the control panel, so the passengers can breathe normally. The police break into a place for a man who breeds unauthorized snakes, so the man tries to escape, but Harris catches him, and the snake bites him. Harris makes him give him a list of the types of snakes he sold to Eddie, and he also knows the composition of the antiserum for each of them. We return to the plane to see Flynn returning from the cargo hold and be a hero for the passengers. Harris calls him and tells him that they managed to reach an anti-venom serum for the snakes. When Flynn enters the cockpit, he finds Rick dead from poison, and they must land the plane. A member of the rap group named Troy is an expert in flying a plane in PlayStation games. Flynn decides to get rid of the snakes, so he orders the passengers to fasten their seat belts, then shoots the windows, breaking them, to fly everything out, including the snakes. Tiffany is about to fly out, but Sean saves her at the last moment. Troy and Flynn sit in the pilot's and co-pilot's seats. Troy gets excited and calls the airport control tower. The employees don't like Troy's way of talking, but Flynn tells them that only Troy can pilot a plane among the passengers. Troy asks the airport to clear a place for him to land and tells the passengers to fasten their seat belts. He lands at the airport, but he can't stop the wheels of the plane, so Flynn helps him move the wheels horizontally, and the plane finally stops. After a moment of silence, Troy screams happily after he managed to land. The police and the rescue team arrive at the airport and head to the plane. Harris arrives with Dr. Price, who has the anti-serum, and treats all the injured, including Tommy. Suddenly a snake appears and bites Sean in his chest, so Flynn shoots him, and he falls, and they think that he is dead, but it turns out that he is wearing a bulletproof vest. Flynn asks Claire to go out on a date, and Sean takes Tiffany's phone number. Sean and Flynn become friends, and after a while, we see them surfing together.